Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Planning for College Without Sacrificing Your Retirement Savings. I'm Sarrah Samraoui and joined by good business partner and friend, Vicki Vollweiler.
Vollweiler, right. Everybody always messes up the name.
So let's get some disclosures out of the way. In the meantime, you can share with us where are you joining us from, if you have children, how many children, how close are they to college?
Yeah, we'd love to get a feeling about, everyone that's here and just where you may be in the process. So if you want, you could come off mute and say, you could put it in the chat.
All right, perfect. So let me get the disclosures out of the way. So this workshop is for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific accounting, legal, tax, or investment advice. And please consult with your tax, accounting, legal, financial advisor before making any financial decisions. And Eastern Bank is, Eastern Bank Wealth Management is a division of Eastern Bank. And views, opinions, graphs shared with you today are for illustration purposes only, and is subject to change with our previous notice. With that said, we have some comments on the chat.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I see somebody has a 17-year-old junior planning for college, and they also have a 14-year-old at home. I have a 14-year-old at home too. I also have a 24-year-old. One child in college and a 16-year-old. Wonderful. Same 17 and 14. Oh, this is great. 15-year-old. Very nice.
Great. So we're going to start by talking about saving for college options from age 0 to 17. And then Vicki is going to talk to you guys about planning for college and how to prepare for it when your child is at that 16, 17 age. So with
Sarah,
that,
let me stop you. I see somebody says that they have a 2-year-old. Never too early to start planning. So welcome.
It's never too early, never too late.
Right.
Perfect. So today we're going to start the discussion about overview when we deal with young couples with children. They have various financial goals that they are simultaneous and they want to satisfy all of them. Like if you are newlywed, you want to buy a house, you want to save for retirement, paying off your debt or your own student loan, travel annually, saving for your kids' college, or even starting a business. So it's a lot to think about, but the way we structure this presentation today, like I told Vicki earlier, we're going to talk about the misconceptions about college planning without sacrificing your other financial goals that you need to keep in mind as well. So the first myth of financial planning is parents should save 100% for their child's college education. Well, it's nice to save for college, and like Vicki said, it's never too early or too late to start, but saving for college should be realistic. And it should be basically what you can afford without sacrificing your other financial goals, such as retirement or buying that home or vacation. So you want to make sure you explore all your options, and the earlier you start is better. But again, it might not be doable for everyone. So planning again for college is gonna based on your own individual financial situation and what's best fits your family. The second myth is, or misconception, is too late to start saving for college if your child is already in high school. Well, that's why I have Vicki here. She's going to tell you how to prep for college. So like we mentioned, it's never too early or too late to start. And even if your child is in high school already, you might think of ways that any savings you put away, it can reduce the cost of college or pay for some of the additional expenses that come with it. The third myth is if your child gets a scholarship, you don't need to pay for college. Well, I like to tell all my clients that you should diversify not only how your assets are allocated, but diversifies your savings, whether for retirement or for college. For this reason, your child may be eligible for scholarships, but sometimes they don't cover 100% of the tuition. So having that savings set aside may be very beneficial. And
Here,
Vicki
Sarah, I'm going to
mentioned,
jump in for a sec. A
go
lot
ahead.
of times kids can get free scholarships,
Mhm.
which will cover tuition perhaps, but they typically don't cover room and board. And depending on the school, room and board can end up costing more than tuition itself. So just to keep that in mind.
Yes, that's a good point to keep in mind. Yeah, so it's gonna be that striking the balance between how much to save and the possibility or the opportunity for kids to be eligible for scholarships. And I know Vicki is gonna touch more on that later on. Okay, another myth. I should prioritize saving for college and or paying off other debts. Well, again, when you're looking at your financial situation, it might be beneficial to do always like sit down and reevaluate where you are at. Paying off debt is always a good thing, but keep in mind having a student loan may not be the worst thing to have. We consider it as a good debt because you do invest in your future or your child's future with the hope that they're going to get a good job and that's it them for a stable financial future. So thinking about paying off your debt or saving for college, you just have to strike that balance between the two based on what's important to you. And again, without sacrificing your other financial goals. We forgot to mention this. Please ask us questions on the chat and we'll answer them as we go through our presentation.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, just throw it in there and I'll monitor it while Sarah's speaking and vice versa.
Absolutely. The fifth myth is planning for college is only for wealthy families and they can afford it. Well, I'm going to share with you some options you have. With the basic will be a savings account where you can invest or save as much as you can and what you can afford. You don't have to max out the college planning, but again, the more you save toward that bucket or that goal, it's just helpful for you and your children. You have the standard 529 plans. They are good for college planning, maybe for the attendee who has 2 years old because they have time on their hand. You have about 16 years for the money to be invested and grow and benefit from the compound interest. With 529 plans, there is no limitation in terms of the income. So you can be a high income earner, you can contribute to it. You can contribute actually up to the annual gift exclusion, which is in 2023, it's 17,000 per donor, per donee to that account. It does grow tax deferred or and then if you use the distributions for qualified education expenses, and that's back, we're going to go back to the IRS rules that need to be happy or satisfied, the withdrawals could be tax-free. But if you use the funds for non-qualified expenses, then the earning or the growth on that account could be subject to a 10% penalty. Another thing.
Sarah, I'm going to stop you for a second if I can. Somebody has a question in here that they learned that a 529 plan goes against you if you apply for financial aid. Now, from my perspective, it doesn't go against you. It does count as a parent asset. So it's good that it's not the child's asset. So it is part of your investments that you have to report. But even if you held it in a regular savings account, you'd still have to report it. So because of the benefits of a 529 plan, I say that they're wonderful. Sarah, do you agree?
No, I agree with you. I do agree. Yep. And I see another question.
Yeah, with the Secure 2.0 Act passed last year, if you move funds from 529 into a Roth IRA, are you penalized for that transfer? Do you want to address this? I mean, my understanding is no, that you're not penalized, but Sarah, that's more your area.
You are correct. So it can set your child to start savings for retirement, that's a huge benefit that Secure Act 2.0 provided. But the other thing too, if you have multiple children, the benefit of having sometimes a 529 plan, you can roll it over to another child. So that's the other benefit you have. I know some parents who plan to have kids, they might open a 529 plan under their own, and then they can transfer it to the child later on. And that's a good way to start accumulating and benefiting again from the power of compounding early on. Yeah, so, and the other thing too with 529 plan, it's a good like wealth transfer strategy for high net worth, maybe grandparents who wants to reduce their estate. They can save or contribute up to 5 years of the annual gift exclusion at one time to this fund. So you do almost like a nice large this contribution upfront and let it to grow for the child's benefit. Okay, so the other options we have, and this is good vehicle for low income, so or low earner parents, the Coverdell Education Savings Account, or sometimes they call it the Coverdell ESA. It has $2,000 limits contribution per year. There is an income limitation for it. And then again, it grows tax deferred. And again, it's subject to that qualified, non-qualified expenses and what it covers. Both 529 plans and Coverdell don't have any tax benefits, so you don't get any tax deduction when you contribute to this vehicle. The tax benefit is they grow tax deferred, and then if you use them for qualified expenses, educational expenses, the distributions are tax-free. The other, so these two vehicles are restricted to educational expenses. You have the custodial accounts, what do we call it, the UTMA or UGMA. Oh, wait, I gotta tell you, the 529 plan I mentioned, it can be transferred to other, children, siblings, or family members.
Cousins.
What is it? Cousins, yes. And the money can stay there. On the other hand, with the Coverdell account, the account needs to be liquidated and emptied by age 30. So keep that in mind. So now let's talk about the custodial account. Custodial account is like a savings account pretty much, but it's for the benefit of the child. The gifts are actually irrevocable gift or the contribution is an irrevocable gift. So when you use the fund in a custodial account, it has to be, any distributions, it has to be for the child who was on the account or the beneficiary of the account. There is a lot of flexibility with this account, so you can use it for education or other financial goals. You can help your child buy their own first home with these accounts. So again, it's important to look at your own financial goals and how these accounts best fits your needs. And there is not one answer that's applicable to all, but again, you can diversify your college saving and using all these vehicles if you would like to. All right. The next myth is it's better for parents to take a parent's loan, or is the child who should be taking the student loan? Well, Vicki is going to cover this in depth later on in the presentation, but just be aware that parent loans could have a higher interest rates. So again, look at your own financial situation. It might be beneficial again to have the child have, some people call it skin in the game, and have them be involved in the student loan process. Taking a loan is not an easy task, and you don't want to have too much debt too. So think of it as, again, what's going to best fit your family. And I'm sure, but I know Vicki is going to touch on the benefit of having parents loan versus student loan later on. Okay. All right. Our next misconception, and the last one, is college planning is only for about saving money. Well, it could be about saving money, but it could be too about sharing or educating your child about the financial responsibility of planning for college and being financially responsible. So you want them to be involved sooner than later. You can share with them how much college costs, how they can, how we have the piggy bank to save for whatever we want. They can have another piggy bank for college planning and get them participating in that process, which could be helpful for the child as well as you. And I know Vicki is going to share with us other tips of how to plan and prep for college. Any questions so far before we move on to the next slide? All right. While you are writing your question, so now when you save for college, especially for those who have still young children, you want to benefit from investing in the market. There are some like 529 plans. There are some funds that adjust as the child gets closer to college. The asset allocation would become more conservative. And I found this slide very powerful. So invest in $100,000 when you have a baby and look at the compounding and the difference by 1% to 2% in returns, how much flexibility and additional growth can help you and help with the college cost. So keep that in mind for those who wants to save only in a CD or a money market that might be earning you 1% or 0.5%. If you have that time horizon over 5 years to college, you might want to consider putting some money to work and generate a higher return. All right. So you can pay for college with 529 plans, Coverdale account, savings account, different tools. Sometimes people use home equity to pay for college. Well, sometimes you have to do that trade-off and calculations. Home equity interest might not be deductible versus having a student loan that the interest might be tax beneficial for you. So keep that in mind. Some people use the retirement to help their child pay for college. Personally, and deep down, that's the last, and even it's not a resort to go to because of various reasons. One, explore all your options and the alternative you have out there before thinking of using your retirement. Two, early withdrawals from your retirement. So if you are age 59 or less than age, or younger than age 59 and a half, any withdrawals from your retirement assets, they're not only subject to your income tax, but it's subject to a 10% withdrawal penalty. So keep that in mind. Why pay more or penalties on withdrawals if you don't have to? And these rules are subject to or applicable to retirement assets that are growing tax deferred. Also, when you withdraw money from your retirement or tax deferred retirement assets, it might push you to the next tax bracket. So you're paying you're paying additional tax. You might be paying additional taxes plus the 10% penalty. You miss out on the growth of those assets. Think again of the compound interest. And now you are sacrificing, again, your retirement and when you can retire to lessen the burden of that student loan or help your child with their college planning. You might stop or pause your retirement saving, but do you have time to catch up? Keep that in mind. And last point is sometimes when you withdraw funds, to Vicki's point, you are adding as income, and which might be which may impact the financial aid, which Vicki is going to touch on that. So when thinking about using your retirement assets, please don't even think about it first. And then if you absolutely have to, think about these 5 criteria before you make that decision. And then to wrap it up, talking about what's important to you. So as you plan for college or any financial goals, take a step back and think about your personal financial situation, what's important to you, set your short-term, long-term financial goals and prioritize them. You don't need to max out or save 100% for college, because there is a scholarships, grants, other things that Vicky's going to touch on in her section coming up next, that may be available to you. But again, have that balance between saving for college, as well as whether it's your retirement or buying a vacation home or any other financial goal that you may have. And you can always do that by looking into your cash flow. So how much money coming in from all your income sources, how much money going out, whether you have discretion on it or not. And then look at your net worth, where you are at financially. List all your assets, whether they are liquid, illiquid. I actually spoke to clients and prospects who bought real estate property and they want to use it to fund their child's college. It could be a good thing, but again, think of the tax consequences as you plan for that and how it will impact for your child to be eligible for aid or access to other opportunities. And then you look at your debt. Do you want to add more to your debt, or just have a good debt management system? With that said, send us your questions and we'll answer them as we go. And that's all I've got for you guys. Now I'm going to pass it to Vicki to share with us how to prep for college.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, advance warning. While I love talking about college financial planning, I don't always love the technology on Zoom. So just bear with me, please, while I. Okay, I did it. So, you know, while Sarah was focused on overall financial health and you know, retirement planning and buying a home and all different stages of life, you know, I focus primarily on college and getting kids and families off to a good start. So just a little bit about me. I have my MBA from Syracuse University. I did go there on a full free ride, tuition plus everything, and they paid me a stipend to go there. So why College Financial Prep? College Financial Prep was founded because I had gone through a divorce. I was a single parent looking to put my own child through college. I was actually a divorce coach at the time, focusing on the financial aspects of people getting on with life after divorce. And clients started to ask me, now, how am I going to afford to put my child through college? You know, this was an area where it's possible to make a huge difference in people's lives, divorced or not. You know, we're not talking about, okay, maybe you could save some money by, you know, switching your cable plan. We're talking about big dollars when it comes to college. So while I'm not necessarily focusing on helping people save money for college, instead with College Financial Prep, we're helping people save money on the cost of college. About our services, typically it's through college planning, and what I mean by that, finding the schools that will offer you either the most in financial aid, the most in merit scholarships, whatever it may be. We talk about scholarships, merit, need-based. We talk about student loans, and all the different ways to make sure that your finances are in order and to keep costs down, and naturally for our children to still go to the best school and to be happy and successful. So what are some of the costs to be considered? There's tuition, there's room and board. You have all the miscellaneous fees, whether it's lab costs, you know, extra fees on campus, supplies, books, fraternity and sorority costs, travel expenses to and from school, tutoring. You know, in high school, you have all the college application fees. I want to say that they're like, you know, they could be $70, $75 per school. Kids are applying to like 20, 25 schools nowadays. It's crazy. You have the cost for setting up a dorm room, spending money, cell phone, dorm insurance. There's even tuition insurance. I think I see that there's a question in the chat.
Someone loves your story.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, next. So sorry. There's a quote from Ben Franklin that I love. Some people have said it's not Ben Franklin. If it's not Ben Franklin, I apologize. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So this is what you need to do to help plan for college costs. So student loan debt statistics. You know, at the time of this, when I put this presentation together, it was $1.57 trillion in student loan debt in the US. I actually just saw something recently said that we're getting close to $1.8 trillion in student loan debt now. I mean, just astounding. 54% of college attendees are taking on debt, including student loans, to help with their education. And the average amount of student loan debt per borrower is $37,584. Now, we're going to get into this a little bit. Undergrad, the students can take out no more than, I believe it's $27,000 in student loan debt themselves. But once they go to graduate school, and they can take out themselves up to the full cost of graduate school, some people have student loan debt in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know many professionals, and they're still, you know, in their comparable age to me, they're still paying off their student loans, plus they're now taking on student loans for their own children. So this is what we have to do to minimize, so that as parents, certainly we can still afford our retirements. So in order to save money, I like to call it the goal system. So we generate a college list. And when I work with clients, this is typically 11th grade, we want to generate a financially friendly college list. Yes, we want to consider the programs that the school offers and that it's a good fit for our children, but we'll certainly want it to be financially friendly. Senior year, October 1st is typically when the financial aid forms open, and I'm referring to FAFSA and the CSS profile. You may have heard about the FAFSA Simplification Act that's going into effect this coming fall for 2024-2025. FAFSA will be delayed, but CSS is still going to open as is October 1st. Then come the spring, the students have been accepted. They're now receiving their financial aid awards. It's important to analyze those and to see, you know, who's giving the most in scholarships, what that bottom line net cost is. Definitely important to look through those. And then we also want to look for where it's possible to negotiate more money, maybe from some of the other schools. It's definitely important to analyze those financial aid awards. And then last part of the process is securing student loans and know which student loans are going to benefit you and hopefully minimize your costs as well. So when you're generating that college list, you know, it's important to consider how much money you're able to put towards your college costs. You know, you need to cover or think about covering 4 years for each child that you have. And in addition to the finances, you want to consider colleges that are reach schools, target schools, safety schools, you know, and naturally, you know, they should all be financially friendly. You know, it's possible that your child is interested in a college that's $80,000 a year, and they're just not going to budge on that $80,000. Well, you may want to reconsider if that school should be on your child's list and, you know, perhaps add another choice that is more financially friendly. And that's something that I do with clients all the time. Sit down and based on their circumstances, their financials, you know, we can put together a strategy as to what schools they may be better off applying to based on finances. So how do we find free money? So there's merit scholarships and there's need-based aid. So typically with merit scholarships, you know, the most merit money comes from the colleges themselves. You know, it's not the Coca-Cola scholarship. It's not necessarily the little private scholarships that you find from the guidance office in the high school, but it's the colleges themselves. Now, it's not always because the child is a 4.0 student with a 1600 on the SATs. I mean, there are certainly awards for academics, but it may be that your child is a leading French horn player. It may be that your child is applying to a school in a different geographic region of the country, and they're looking to attract students from your local area. It may be that your child is pursuing a certain major and a college recently started offering that major and they're looking to attract students to that program. So merit scholarships are basically saying, we're going to give you a discount to attend our college. They're looking to entice your student to go to that school. Typically, if your child is applying to reach colleges, they don't need to entice your child to go there. Your child is going to want to go there. So you typically won't find merit scholarship money from the reach colleges. To qualify for need-based aid, you have to complete the financial aid forms. So I mentioned FAFSA, which is free application for federal student aid. That's the government form. Some states also have their own state financial aid forms. Then there's also the CSS profile, which is administered through the College Board. You know, that's the organization that does the SAT tests and the AP exams. And then some schools, not every school, actually just a small amount of schools, use their own institutional financial aid form.
And Vicki, before you move on, I was going to ask you about the FAFSA. I run into clients who ask, well, my child did not qualify for any financial aid in their first year. Should they apply for it next year, or is it worth it to apply for it every year as the child is in college?
Definitely. And like, yes. Let me see, I may even have a slide here that addresses that. Why don't I see it here? Okay, well, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to tell you why everybody should. Okay, so everyone, my opinion, should apply for FAFSA every single year. It should be submitted. I don't care whether, you know, you can pay in full or not. So here are the reasons. One, obviously, if you need need-based aid or you hope to qualify for need-based aid, fill it out. There are sometimes, so the government awards financial aid through the Pell Grant with FAFSA, but also the colleges award aid, and they may base that information off of FAFSA. So for instance, that $80,000 a year school that I was talking about before, say a household earns, I'm making this up, a couple $100,000. They may say, oh yeah, well, it's $80,000 a year and you earn a couple $100,000. Maybe we should give you some need-based aid to help pay for that $80,000. So that's one reason to submit it. No, you're not going to qualify for a Pell Grant earning $200,000, but you may be awarded some money directly from the college. Another reason, say you want your child to take out student loans that are from the government. Again, we'll get into this too, student loans are small, but to qualify for that student loan, you have to fill out the FAFSA application. That's how you apply for it. Work study is also applied for through the FAFSA application. And then I like to compare FAFSA almost to an insurance product. And what I mean by that is, heaven forbid something happens. You know, a parent gets run over by a bus, somebody loses a job, something, you know, horrific impacts the family, and now the finances have gone down. If you have FAFSA on file, it's possible to go back to the college and ask them to reevaluate. And not 100% of schools, but many, many schools will readjust your costs for that year. But the application has to be on file to do that.
Okay, we have a question, Vicki, about FAFSA. Does FAFSA allow for divorce and not sharing financial information with the ex? Do they have honor of 50-50 agreement to pay between exes? And
okay,
does FAFSA require parents to guarantee the child's loan? So 3 questions.
Okay, so wait, I'm looking at the question, so I'll go through one by one. Okay, so FAFSA and divorce. This is my my expertise. So FAFSA is typically filled out by one parent. I'm going to recommend for anybody who's divorced and filling out FAFSA not to get remarried till after the kids are done with college, because if you are remarried, then you are providing the information for the new step parent. So, you know, it's not the two biological parents is your parents, you're providing financial information for the household. Do they honor 50-50 agreement to pay between ex-spouses? It has nothing to do with your agreement. Your agreement is outside of FAFSA. FAFSA is just a form for the government. So based on the household that submits FAFSA is how financial aid will be determined. And then, you know, what happens between the two spouses and paying for college is separate in between you. It has nothing to do, the school doesn't get involved, the government doesn't get involved. You know, I hope not, you may need your attorneys to get involved, but hopefully the parents can, you know, figure it out. I hope that answers the question. Does FAFSA require parents to guarantee the child's loan? So let's talk about the child's loan. So there may be some of this in this presentation, you know, if there is, we'll skip over it later. As far as the child's loan, so freshman year, the students can take out up to $5,500 a year. Now on that $80,000 a year school, the child's only taking out $5,500. It's up to the parents to pay the balance. Okay, so think about that, please. Sophomore year, the children can take out up to $6,500 in student loans from the government, and junior and senior year, they can take out $7,500 each year in student loans. FAFSA does not require the parents to guarantee those loans. There's no cosigner needed. Also for the students, those loans have the lowest interest rates available. So I always recommend, if a student loan is necessary, that they start with the student loans first. Does that help? I hope. Any questions? Okay, I guess I'll move on.
Yes.
So honors programs, you may be wondering why I'm bringing this up, but honors programs could have lots of benefits, including financial benefits. So I always suggest honors programs to clients. And why is that? You know, every school, all different level colleges, they all have honors programs. So again, you don't need to, your child doesn't need to be that 4.0 student, but whatever level college they're looking at, if they happen to step down a notch, there may be honors programs that they qualify for that will come with typically, you know, lots of merit money. So it's a good way to save money on the cost of college. Plus the students typically will get perks such as like priority housing, priority registration, smaller classes, more interaction with the staff and faculty and networking opportunities, and, you know, lots of good benefits. So I bring this up because it is a great way to save money. Let's see, there's another question in the chat, I believe. Oh, you're very welcome. So let's continue. Test optional colleges. I'm sure if you have, you know, kids that are getting ready for this, you've heard about all the schools going test optional, mostly as a result of COVID. I still recommend that everybody take the SATs or the ACTs. Why? Because even though the colleges are test optional, the colleges are still using the exams to award merit scholarship money. So certainly if your child is a good test taker, take the exams. You know, test blind colleges won't consider them at all, but most of the schools are test optional. Demonstrating interest. You know what, demonstrating interest is important, certainly in terms of college admissions. But the reason that I have this here is because if your student can become friendly-ish, develop a rapport with a college admissions counselor, it may help down the road if you need to request additional funding. So just keep that in mind. You know, everything we're discussing there's a side of finance to it. So need-based aid, you know, and this is applied for, again, mostly through FAFSA, and it can consist of Pell Grants, work study, or subsidized loans. So for undergraduate, the FAFSA will look at both the students and the parents' income and assets, you know, as well as other factors such as, you know, how many people are living in the household, when the parent's birthday is, how close to retirement they are. So it will consider a whole bunch of different factors. And when I say looks at the students and parents, we're talking about within a household, because we had the question before about divorce. It won't look at two separate households. We're only talking about one household, whether the parent is remarried or not. So here, this is where we're talking about through the federal
Vicki,
government.
Because we have
Yes.
another question. Does FAFSA takes into account the parents' retirement funds?
FAFSA does not take into account the parents' retirement funds. However, CSS profile does. And this is where I'll get strategic with clients in terms of, certain schools that they may wish to apply to or not. Because some people, they have all their assets in retirement accounts. So, yeah, it's important to be strategic.
But if you withdraw money from your retirement assets to help your child with college funding.
Wait, say this again.
I said if they take withdrawals from retirement, like a 401k or an IRA, to help the child with their college tuition, now you're exposing those funds to be included.
Hopefully people won't do that.
Just like, yeah, that's why I'm like, rethink when you're thinking to use retirement
penalties,
assets.
Taxes. Yeah, if possible, do not touch those retirement accounts.
Yes.
Divorce in one household, confused kids go between households. Even with to answer the question, even with a 50-50 situation, there are 365 days in a year. 360. So, that would be divided by like 182 and 183 days. Now, we're going to be getting into the FAFSA Simplification Act on this. If everybody wants, I'll send you a recording after this presentation. We'll send you a recording. Sarah, if okay with you, I'm also going to attach another recording that's on the FAFSA Simplification Act. This is a presentation I did myself a couple of nights ago. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because the rules are changing for FAFSA and divorce, where it's no longer going to be the custodial parent who files FAFSA. So the 50-50 issue won't even come up. It's really going to be going now by the parent that provides more financial support for the child. Now, that brings up a whole touchy subject. I have not seen specific guidelines to define that. It's certainly possible that one parent, the non-custodial parent provides, X dollars for the child, but the parent who resides with the child could be spending more money on the child themselves. So, it can get complicated. And that's going to, be something else that I'm certainly working with clients on as we prepare for that. Okay, so I hope that addresses that, and I'll send the recording, and then can follow up with people there. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, so we went through the student loans. No credit check, no co-signers needed. If your family qualifies for need-based aid and the student's entitled to subsidized loans, I always say take the subsidized loans, because that does not accrue interest at all until after graduation, unlike unsubsidized loans, which does start accruing interest as soon as you take the loans out freshman year. So what can the parents do afterwards if they still need additional funds to help pay for college, if you don't have enough saved up? There are Parent Plus loans, which are through the federal government. The student can take out private loans. They'll need a parent as a cosigner, though. Many people ask me, well, can my child qualify as an independent? It is virtually impossible, and I hope none of our children are ever in the situation where they can apply as independent. They need to be orphaned, horrific, maybe they were just in foster care most of their lives. So, I hope that no child needs to be an independent. Typically they're not independent till they're over the age of 24. So here we went through this, why everyone should submit financial aid applications. So EFC, so part of the FAFSA Simplification Act, they're changing the term EFC, which stood for Expected Family Contribution, and it's now going to be called Student Aid Index, SAI. It's still basically the same thing. It's just going to show the colleges on a scale, about how much you can afford to pay for college. However, please know that each college then has their own formula to determine what cost, each household is going to pay. Just because this number comes up saying 10,000 doesn't mean that every college is going to say, okay, you just owe us 10,000. Unfortunately, nothing is simple. It doesn't work that way. Each college is their own entity, and and this is why it's so confusing to parents, because nothing is standardized. So let's go through two examples. School A. School A meets 100% of need. And just so you know, if your student is exceptionally gifted, the Ivy Leagues pay 100% of need. So assume the family EFC was $10,000 per year. Maybe the cost of attendance at this school was $70,000 per year. They're going to assume that you need $60,000. And since school A meets 100% of need, the student's cost is only $10,000. But school B only meets 50% of need. The family still has that same $10,000 EFC, or now student aid index number. The cost of attendance at this school too is also $70,000. So you still have that same $60,000 in need. But since school B only meets 50% of need, they'll provide $30,000, half of the 60. So this student has to pay 10 plus the additional 30. So school B is going to cost $40,000. So that's why I was saying each school has their own formula and how they determine how much they're going to expect the students to pay. Work study. I always get lots of questions about what work study is. You apply for it through FAFSA. The students get an on-campus job. They receive a biweekly paycheck. And pretty much it's a check that the kids can put towards their spending money. They can put it towards tuition, but I'm sure they put it towards the on-campus Starbucks instead, or whatever else they're doing. And it's usually up to the student to find a position once they're on campus. So I think work study is a wonderful thing. Even if the kids are not part of an official work study program, I still encourage that they get on-campus jobs. They get work experience for their resume. They learn time management skills. And when the job is quiet, they get to do homework. My son has always had an on-campus job. I hate to tell you, half the time he's watching Netflix. So, it's not the same as working a job in the mall or wherever. So other college financial aid forms, we spoke about CSS profile and state-based forms, institutional forms. Wait a sec, let me see. I think there's a question in the chat. Work study was the best, okay.
And I think that too, I want to add, it can help the child get exposed to a job and build that business ethics, build networking when you are, exposed to other people. So it has its benefits.
Definitely. So we spoke a lot about FAFSA, and that is used for every school in the United States. But there are about 400 colleges that require the CSS profile. And it's typically the bigger name schools that everyone's familiar with. It's the Ivies, it's Stanford, it's Tulane, it's NYU, BU, Georgetown, so it's big name schools. It's mostly private colleges. There are a couple of public universities, but in the main, it's private. And it provides a more holistic view of the household's finances. It digs deep into a household's finances in terms of divorce. Most of the colleges, not all, and this is again where we get strategic, they will be looking at both households' finances. And in the cases where both parents are remarried, they're now looking at 4 parents' income and assets. Even if those parents don't plan on those step parents don't plan on contributing a dime, they still need to report their information for financial aid purposes. So like weight loss, these results aren't typical, but I've had some clients save hundreds of thousands of dollars each. So how they do this, they apply to the right schools, depending on their situation. You know, the kids obviously had to be accepted to those schools. And then, you know, the family had to choose that was the best school to attend. But literally, I've had a few families that were able to save hundreds of thousands. You know, and it's just, and typically those are divorce situations, and how best to position them.
Vicki, before you move on, like how early can you start this process of analyzing the cost of college and what's involved?
Typically, with developing a college list, I don't typically do it before 11th grade, but I do work with younger families, especially, you know, who've had like a change in situation, whether it's a divorce or something else, just to plan ahead, like people going through a divorce and working on their divorce agreements. You know, I'll certainly sit down with them and talk about finances and let's plan for the future. Because it does get crazy in terms of financial aid, and you know, you have two people that don't want to communicate with each other, so I'll be that like third party neutral, and it just works. You know, this is the one place that, certainly in the case of divorce, I mean, divorce is a lousy situation, but when it comes to financial aid, by all working together, I mean, this could be a win-win for both parents and the child. So so like I'm saying, divorce, widowhood, other extenuating circumstances, whether it's a job loss, whether it's a medical illness, you know, and lots of medical expenses. Keys to be strategic in applying to the right colleges and universities. You know, if divorced, you may want to look for a school that won't request the other parent's information. If finances are limited, no matter who you are, you know, you want to be able to project costs for each college before submitting the application, so you know if it's realistic or not. If you're looking to receive merit scholarships, you know, you want to consider the student's academic achievements and match them up with those colleges to determine those likely awards. So success stories, I'm just going to leave it as plan ahead. Those that plan ahead are those that always win. You know, the failures, I've literally had people, true story. I had somebody call me. They were on their way to a college to drop their kid off. They said that the bill was due the next day. What can they do to save money? I can't do anything. You know, it was too late. I mean, I could help them look for private scholarships for next year, but nothing to help them for the next day. So key is always planning ahead. And then here's some information if you want to be in touch. I always offer, you know, a little brief, you know, consult, you know, no charge if somebody wants to schedule time. You could always find the link on my website, CollegeFinancialPrep.com. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we can open it
in the chat
up
box.
to questions.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, and Sarah, you put that in. Okay.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself if you don't want to type a whole question. And have let's have a discussion. We have 5-6 more minutes.
Hi, Vicki. This is Joanna. I want to ask you a question. Like,
sure.
It's like an analysis project, which I work in analysis, so it's not that intimidating. But I wonder, like, how you get all that information. If colleges are open actually to share that information, like how much scholarships do they give it to the students, how they calculate. Is that information that they typically share with you, or how you fish for those things?
You have to do a lot of research.
Yeah, that's
I don't have a simple answer for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Afternoon, this is Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi. How much, just average, because of course my daughter's only in 8th grade now. Like, what is your service generally cost?
I don't have a set answer. I mean, I'll do a 1-hour consultation with people, and then it's just a 1-hour consultation. And there are other people that it'll be a package for a full year, and you know, that's a different amount.
Right.
So So yeah, I mean, I try not to, the reason that I do, whether a 1 hour, I want to meet the client
Mhm.
where they are. So, sometimes people just need that hand holding for 1 hour just to know that they're on the right track and doing everything right. And some people need full, more complete service. So,
Okay.
I
And
hope that helps.
gives an idea. Yeah, it gives an idea. I always also I'm insurance, so I know it's not easy to commit to a proposal too. What about these like the apps that I've seen like Scholarly, like a few other things where people can start applying for all these scholarships or grants that you would never find. Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know much about them. Candidly, I don't use them. When I do private scholarship searches with clients, we're looking for the hard to find scholarships that not many people will be applying for. So no, I don't use like the Fast Web or any of
Okay.
those out there.
And
I
last,
do have on
okay.
my website a listing of scholarship sites and databases, which does include like the fast webs and all of those, because people always like to see them, but I don't personally use them.
Okay, last question. So do you do anything where the children are involved? So say
Yes.
freshman year, get them involved, like get them thinking of things long term.
Well,
I feel like that's something I missed as a kid. So
what I typically in the main, I work with parents. What I do with children is 11th grade, when we're talking about colleges, I certainly want their input in terms of, colleges that they're considering, and then we'll start projecting costs for different colleges. So they're certainly involved there. And the other area that I really want them involved in is the financial aspect of picking a college. For instance, there are many times where, their dream school is the $80,000 a year school, and the parent may be thinking, I want the in-state university. So what I do is I sit down with the parent and the child, or parents and child, and it can be by Zoom, it can be in person, it can be whatever it is, because we're dealing with all different family dynamics. And we're going to go through how much each costs, what it looks like if the student has to take out loans, what if the parents need to take out loans, does the student have plans to go to grad school afterwards? We're going to look at what the monthly student loan costs are, what the total loan that they're going to have to pay back at the end is compared to what they're taking out. And then we're going to discuss how it's going to impact their lives. I don't know how old everyone here is today, but if you remember, maybe I shouldn't even be bringing this up, Bill Cosby show, there was an episode where he was with Theo, and Theo wanted a real job, and he was going through, you have to eat, you have to pay rent, you have to get a car, you have to, and the kid, anyway, through this conversation that we have with the kids, they finally start to understand the value of a dollar, and maybe they should not go to the $80,000 a year college. So that I do with the kids.
okay. Thank you. I think just some schools do a great job with financial literacy and teaching them in high school. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm in one of those towns right now. So that's why I think it's important to get them thinking early. So thank you.
Oh, definitely. No, I'm a huge proponent of financial literacy for my kids. I mean, my own kids probably want to like, my kids are good. But yeah, I think it's hugely important. I mean, even I want to say somebody else had a 14-year-old. Just point of reference. I just set my 14-year-old up with a debit card, and we're talking about, savings. She wants to start babysitting and, all those financial things that she should be learning, and saving money and, managing her money. So, I think it's important to start you early.
Thank you.
Vicki, we have another question about employers. Do you have any idea or ideas about employers who provide tuition assistance programs? For example, Starbucks has their SCAP benefits with SAU online, but do you know about others that could help reduce costs?
I don't.
I don't either.
I want to say, and I wasn't in there, I saw a sign through a window about maybe Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think I saw something with Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'd possibly check through Target, there may be others that provide tuition assistance as well. Maybe Dunkin' Donuts. It's certainly worth exploring.
I do actually, when I speak with college students, that's if they're thinking to go to graduate school, maybe take a pause and have a job that's provide education assistance or education reimbursement programs to help them go to grad school versus having large student debts in undergrad, then adding the grad debt to it. Take a break, reassess, get a job, and during the interview, you can ask that question about education or tuition assistance programs that can help with the next phase of education.
We didn't discuss it at all, but a lot of people, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. A lot of people, they go to community college the first couple of years, they live at home, and then they transfer junior year to, maybe the college of their dreams. They keep costs, lower, but they still have the piece of paper that they want. So, that's something to consider also as a way to manage costs.
I'm just adding my email address there. If anyone wants to get in touch about the 0 to 17 savings strategies. So with that said, we are on the top of the hour. If you have any questions, there is one more question. Vicki, do you know if a school will offer more aid if they know that the student is planning to continue their med dental school?
No. No, that's graduate school is completely separate afterwards, because otherwise everybody could say that they plan to go to graduate school. And no, yeah. I mean, if you can find, certainly with whether it's a master's program or graduate school, there are some schools where they'll offer instead of 4 years to graduate from college, they'll have like a 5-year master's program. So you finish in 5 instead of 6. I mean, you're saving a year off tuition. So if you could find the same with, and I'm sure they're few and far between, but if you could find with medical or dental school, I mean, a program and save a year off tuition, that could be huge.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, Tracy, and thank you everyone for joining us. We want to be respectful of your time. We will send out resources, recording that Vicki mentioned, as well as today's recording for those who joined us, and as well as those who were not able to join us, but ask for the recording. Thank you, Vicki, for joining me for this session, and thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Have a good day.
Thank you.